everyone, I'm Lindsay Hoffman, and welcome to the Dose of Bliss show, where I bring some amazing people to share their daily dose of bliss with you. Today, I have Nancy Duitch. Did I say that right? Duitch.
Duitch, that's okay.
Either's
fine.
I know, I was like, I'm gonna get it, and I didn't get it. Nancy Duitch. She is the founder of Sera Labs CBD. We have that right over here. But also, you've created a $3 billion company. You're known for infomercials. What are some of the products that you had created?
We were very fortunate to get into the explosive growth industry in the early 90s in direct response, which is where infomercials really began. And so I was very fortunate to get involved in those products back in those days, where you could buy a TV spot for $100 in the middle of the night and wake up in the morning and have tons of orders. And it was the beginning of an 800 number. It was before there were websites. So it was really a way to, really drive retail sell-through or continuity sell-through without spending a ton of money on advertising. And so I was very fortunate that the first project we did turned out to be a product that was the ab rolling product. Mm-hmm. And we did the retail on that project, and we went from zero to $334 million in 1 year.
That's insane.
It was unbelievable, the roller coaster ride that we had. And that kind of launched my whole career in direct to consumer and how to drive people to go to retail and buy products. And from there, we did projects called Seratopical pillow. We did the first elliptical machines.
This is like you're an infomercial legend.
Yes, I don't know about the legend part. I have to be much older than I am to be the legend part.
No, that's how successful you are. You became a legend at a young age.
Yes. Okay. I like the word young. That's really good. I think I'll use that word. But I did projects with, I don't know if you remember Billy Mays. He was the guy that is like, put the cash in the trash. So we did all of his commercials with the exception of the Orange Glow products, and they were Hercules Hook, the hook you put into the wall to hold up to 150 pounds.
Yeah, you've done it all.
And the Zorbies and the Steam Buddy and all those products. We did so many projects, and it was a very exciting, fast time in those days. But at some point, I recognized that TV was kind of on its way out at the end of the first decade of the 2000s, and really said, you know what, I really got to focus more online. And so I transitioned my whole business to online.
So you've been so successful. What in your life, like in your childhood and growing up, led you on this path to become this person?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I was just asked that question, is being an entrepreneur or your drive to be successful innate, or is it learned? And I believe it's innate. And I didn't have parents who, like my mom was very, very, she was a big advocate, more in the philanthropic world and in political world. But neither of them were super ambitious at all. And I think that it's really interesting that I was probably the most ambitious out of everybody in my immediate family. And I think it was just something that was innate, that I always strived, for success. And it's interesting because when I graduated college, I went out for job interviews, and I never got a job. And the reason I never got a job was because they would say to me, and remember, this was a long time ago, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I would say, I see myself as the president of your company.
And they're like, I can't hire you.
And they're like, you're out of here. I didn't know any better, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't teach women in those days how to interview. So I learned how to be an entrepreneur. And when I say learned, it was innate, on how to be an entrepreneur. And I think learning how to, maneuver through learning, understanding the financials and understanding the operations part, but really having an expertise in marketing and in the creative side and sales, really was great for me. And then hiring people around me that were experts in those other areas, but really knowing how the other categories and the other areas in business worked. So I think that was, my road of a lot of ups and downs. And anybody who tells you that you are just go straight to the top has never been successful at all, because it's the times that you fail in life that if you can't learn your lessons and say, wait a second, what can I do to make sure I don't make that mistake again? And is really the way that you become very successful and really understanding what's important. Because all the businesses we're in, like I'm in the consumer product goods business industry, and I've been forever, has really been, it's a business of pennies, not dollars. And how do you make sure that you really, you're the caretaker of all of that? Because honestly, as a CEO, you're ultimately responsible for everything that happens.
And so to get to the success, what are you doing that other people aren't doing? Because I've noticed that, you know, if someone's successful, they're doing something different than the average person is.
I think that what has made me successful has been, or at least given me the opportunity to be successful, has been the fact that, you know, I've had a lot of tragedy in my life. And I never ever want to be in a place where I was sorry that I didn't take a chance and I didn't move forward. And I think that a lot of people give up. And I lost my brother and my sister in their 20s to a sudden cardiac death. It turns out to be a genetic condition. I have the same exact condition. But I'm on medication. And nobody knew in those days what arrhythmias were. And you hear about athletes just dropping dead suddenly. Well, that's what happened to my brother and sister. And so everybody wanted me to be cautious and not take risks. So I wouldn't take risks with my health. So I was always really healthy and always felt that that they didn't have a chance to show what they could be when they evolved. And I felt that, for me, it really taught me how to evolve and to learn from my mistakes and to learn from the failures and to never get caught up in not having a great team around you, and because that's really important, and to really put people together that are going to work together as a team and collaboration. So I think that that's really important. And I think there's a lot of luck involved as well.
I mean,
right?
That just shows, though, how strong of a person that you are, because looking at you, no one would know that you had gone through all of those things and you channeled that to becoming a successful person. You didn't sit, I'm sure you sat and you were sad, but you didn't let that define your life.
It's interesting. It defined my life for a very long time, but it never defined my work life. So it defined my neuroses as a mother and freaking out when I didn't hear from my kids at a certain hour of the night, and them not understanding that the fear is not hearing from your child. So communication became a very important part of my work life. And I tell everybody who works with me knows, you've got to communicate, over communicate, right? And I think that the act of communication with collaboration is really the key to success in any company. And hiring people smarter than you and better than you is really important, and being fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time.
Do you have an example of a place that you were at the right place at the right time?
Yes, I was in the direct response world at the right time at the very beginning. And even though it's very difficult to be someplace at the beginning before it becomes a critical mass, similar to the CBD world, right, which I'm in now, there's a lot of regulatory issues. There is a lot of similarities between both industries having explosive growth, and there's a lot of bad actors out there. There's a lot of companies that have people that, when they see the gold rush, they say, "Oh my God, my dad can support me. My dad can make this happen." They don't know how much money it really takes to be successful. They don't understand that even though you may get your products into retail, you've got to drive retail sell-through. How do you do that, right? How do you get your company known? And I think that, and how do you get your products made? And are they the top quality? Because quality is so important. And do you get your products tested? And so I think that a lot of people don't know all these little ins and outs of business and how to make it happen for themselves. And I think the failure is with a lot of people, they came from farming, or they came from extraction, or they graduated college and they say, I'm going to be a success, and they don't know how to do it. And so I think that, for us, our team, we're all really experienced people. A lot of us have worked together for a long time, and we play off of each other and really help each other
And
out.
what's that like being in this new industry where it's not, fully regulated everywhere yet? And you have to explain things to people. How do you keep yourself going on the days I'm sure you get no's, even though your person has this huge, I know the company now, it has over 10 million in revenue, right? And
Yes.
so, you have to hear a lot of no's to get there. How do you get through that?
Well, the no's don't bother me because I always feel that a no is a potential yes in the future. I've never looked at a no. If we get a no, it's because either regulatory issues, which we have no control over now, but we stay in touch with those people. And it's building relationships and camaraderie with them and letting them know, like, when you've been around a while, they know they can trust you. And it's really about building trust with those people. And the same exact thing even with the direct to consumer. If we send out an email or we have an ad that goes out and people say, well, can I trust that company? The key is they can trust us. And that's why all our advertising is built around quality education. And if you don't educate the customer to what you're trying to sell, if you ask anybody out there, what does CBD do for you today? People go, it's cool, it's in. I think this is what it does. We can't make any claims about what it does. So we create all of our products with other active ingredients so that there's benefit to everything we do. We do not have a single product that does not give a benefit to the end consumer.
That's an amazing way to think of it too, because when people are wanting to achieve their goal, there's things in your way, and you have to think of, there's the destination I want to go to. What do I need to do to get to that destination? And that's what you're doing.
Most people quit before they get there. They say, oh, I don't have enough money in the bank, or I can't get this product made, and they give up. So you can't give up. You got to put blinders on and move forward and know that you're going to have hills, you're going to have valleys, you're going to go to the mountaintop, and you're coming down, and it's going to go like this for a while, especially since there is no regulatory guidelines from the federal government out there. So it's very tough. It's the hardest thing I've ever done is this business, the most difficult. Because for me, I'm used to doing 0 to 100 million, 0 to $334 million in a year. So now every order we get, it's like manna from heaven. It's just so great. We get so excited about it. Every new customer that we have, and the best customers for us are the reorder customers. Those are the ones we love the most.
I like how you say that though, because I know you're saying really big numbers like, oh, I'm used to 0 to 300 million. Like, we all wish we could be so lucky, or even so lucky to the levels that you're at. But when you're used to a certain amount of success or anything, it's still, we're always growing to be somewhere further.
Well, we basically, my sales team and I, we sit there and go, oh, we're such losers. Why can't we do more than this? And so we're always really frustrated and looking for new ways to evolve and to create revenue for the company.
Yeah, that's really important though, because you know that there is a solution to the problem. You just might have not thought of it yet, and it just takes a little time to get there.
And it's timing too. It's really timing. If we hadn't gotten in when we did, we could never be where we're at right now. But then again, there is definitely going to be, in the future, we'll be one of the survivors because we know how to drive the sell-through.
And especially with your story behind it, how did you get into working with CBD in the first place? Does it have to do with like some of the health things that you have experienced growing up? Is that where like the passion comes from?
Yes, it is where the passion comes from. So I started out where I worked with a couple of friends and we developed the skincare line to sell online. And we didn't have CBD in it, but we had, a tremendous amount of clinically tested ingredients in the product. And then I realized, do I really want a commodity business? No, I want to do something that's a little more unique, that, that'll be different. And so I went to a mastermind group. And I'm sitting there listening, and all these young kids were there. When I say young kids, they were young adults, and they had no business experience whatsoever. They were talking about CBD, and they were talking about ingestibles, but they weren't talking about topicals. And I'm thinking to myself, wonder if I put CBD in the skincare. So I went back to my manufacturer, and I said, can we do this? And he said, it's not so simple, right? It's much more difficult than you think. And we reformulated, all the products, and we figured, we worked through getting new delivery systems. And because the molecule of CBD is so big in topicals, you have to be very cautious how you mix it in the vats. And there's a homogenization problem, because the molecules you don't put it in and just mix it for a few seconds like when you bake a cake, right? So think about when you make a cake, right? You've got to make sure the eggs are all mixed in. You've got to make sure the flour is all mixed in properly. Well, the same exact thing happens with these huge vats at the manufacturing plant, right? So we had to make sure that that the CBD got through every single part of that vat. And so I then went and said, how many milligrams of CBD should I put in here? Nobody knew back in 2018. So we went to, I had 20,000 customers, and we went to those customers and I asked them, and we sent out samples of different types of the different skincare with different milligrams. And the milligrams that we have in these of our 3 top products, 300 milligrams. Our cleanser, we didn't need as much. And our eye serum is only 15 mLs, so we needed less because it's not 30 mLs. And what we found is that our customers told us what they saw the difference, that they felt and saw the difference when we had this amount of milligrams in it. So that's what started the company right there.
That's actually really inspiring, because you're at the start of something, it's so new, you're like, I don't know, I have to make this up, I have to ask people. But that's how you know it works, because it's not like, oh, we're just putting in what we know or this, you're actually getting it straight from the source.
And remember, because I have this heart condition, the reason I built a few different skincare companies, the reason that I have had to is that I can't have a facelift. I live in Los Angeles.
You don't need one.
Thank you. But I can't do any surgery because I can't have epinephrine because of my heart. So I'm always looking for the fountain of youth, always looking for something that's going to make me, look better without having to have a knife. And because I can't, because all the doctors run away from me when I ask them, what can you do for me? They run really fast.
They're like, I don't want to hurt you.
So we created this line, and then we created our wellness line, which is Sera Relief. And then we created our value proposition line for those people who couldn't afford to spend, even though these are all mid-priced, nothing is very expensive at all. But then we create our value proposition line for the mass retailers as well. So we believe that what we've done is that we've created beauty, we've created wellness, and we have value proposition. And that's really important to give a choice to people so they can make a decision what's in their best interest.
And the story behind it is just so beautiful. And the fact that, if those tragedies hadn't happened in your life, you wouldn't be where you are today. Who knows where you'd be? Would you be working with the beauty line? We don't know.
Well, what's really interesting, because it's like today in 2020, I was telling this to a group I was speaking with, that I will never forget going on an interview with a pharma company, and the guy said to me, and this was really a long time ago, he says, when you went to college, why didn't you get your MRS degree? And I didn't know what he was talking about for a second. And when I left, after he told me to leave, I was like, MRS, oh my God, he thought I should get married, a Mrs. degree.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, I was like, wait, what is that?
Right.
Is that for
the Mrs. Right, it's a Mrs. degree. And I was laughing because that's how people thought of women in business back in those days. So I feel so fortunate that, I got into business at a time where it was not as acceptable for women to be in business. And then I was able to grow, and with success and age came respect. And then people don't look at me anymore as as this, like, you're a woman in business. They look at you as she's a force to be reckoned with.
You're the boss of the company, like how you envisioned yourself before. So we only have a few minutes left. So I want to know, what's your biggest motto or advice that you want everybody watching to know about how to overcome things and go, become the success that you have?
Applaud your failures. Look at them from a realistic perspective. Don't blame other people for them. They're usually your fault. And make sure that you have a strategy for overcoming those failures. That's number one. And by the way, every failure is my greatest success, because that's where I've learned how to overcome and make sure those don't repeat themselves. Second thing is, don't give up. put your blinders on. Don't be doing 10 things at one time. You will never be successful if you're trying to, you're trying to run 3 or 4 businesses, or you're trying to, to do multiple things. Be successful with one, and then you can expand your horizons, right? And the third thing is be genuine. Always be transparent and be genuine, and people will know that you are, and it comes through in everything you write, everything that you create, whatever you develop. And that is what I would suggest to anybody who's starting out in business today.
That's so inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you let our viewers know where they can find you and where they can find the Sera Labs products?
You can go to Sera Labs Health, that's SERA labshealth.com. Or you can go to Seratopical, that's SERAtopical.com. The skincare and all these products are on the Sera Labs Health site, and the Seratopical is just skincare, but you can still get the skincare on the other. And I think we gave you a coupon for your guests so they can get a discount.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much for watching the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the bio below, I'll have a special promo code for you guys so you can go try out some of this. I've tried it out. It is amazing, as she says, and you hear the story behind it. I only support things that have an inspirational story and that I really believe in. And I mean, you heard it straight from the source. So thank you guys so much for watching the show. Every Thursday, you can find it on YouTube. If you want to binge watch it before that, you can check it out on EverTalk TV. Here's a little pillow right here. And we'll see you guys next week for the next Dose of Bliss. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.